الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله وما بعد. Okay, today we're supposed to do the exam for the inheritance, but I felt before we begin we should do a review of the entire subject. For many brothers who were asking the various questions, and also some brothers requested more practice. So it only makes sense that we have some review, and after this review and any questions and things like this clarified, then we can do the test or the exam today, if not next week, and perhaps it might be better to delay it after we finish what we do today, so it becomes clear to us any of the issues. For some questions that arose during the week, some people were asking and things that they were confused about, so we want to inshallah ta'ala make sure we finish all that before we test. Otherwise people will make mistakes because something was not clear and we didn't give them a fair chance. So in the WhatsApp group as well as the Telegram in front of us, we have a summary of the fiqh of inheritance and its calculation. So what I did was, I've taken all the slides we had so far in the last 7-8 classes or so, which are approximately 88, and we condensed it to 12. And the importance of this is it allows us to see the gist of the subject and also to better grasp the rules, because we went through all of it in detail. So now we want to summarize it so it stays in our mind. From there we can review off that. So let's begin, inshallah. It's in front of you. So the definition of inheritance, we said, study of the estate division is juristic rulings, yani the fiqh of it, and the hisab, the calculations. So that's it. The study of the tarika, the estate, and the qisma, how to divide this tarika, this estate. It's fiqh and it's hisab. It's juristic rulings and its calculations. Again, this is not a definition exactly word for word from the ulama, it's just a summary. So someone asks you what's inheritance, study of the estate, people's wealth, how to divide it. That's it. How do you divide it? That's what we're studying. And it has two parts, fiqh wa hisab, jurisprudence and the calculation. So throughout this text, we talk about fiqh, then the hisab, the calculation. So you have to remember, the hard part obviously is remembering the calculations. For the fiqh, we covered it and some people remember, but we need both. The conditions, we said there are 3. Death of the deceased, and we say death means you have to make sure the person died. The heir being alive after the death. So the heir has to be alive after the death, not just before. He has to be alive, because if he's alive during the death or before it, he's not considered an heir. He has to make sure he's alive when the person died. And knowledge of the relationship between the deceased and the heir, which means that we have to know that they're related to the deceased and one of the 3 asbab, causes. Okay, so the reason why the conditions are important, if you memorize them, you know why we have issues with the person who's missing, the person who dies in drowning, demolition, or fires, those who are, the one where we have simultaneous or successive deaths, they all go back to the shurut. So if you remember the conditions, then it's assumed any case that the conditions are met. But some cases someone presents you, they might not be met. So your job is to figure out first, beforehand, conditions. Right? Because you're always assuming so-and-so is the heir. Yeah, you have to make sure he was alive, this person died. So that's also your job. Causes, we said there are 3. We studied 2 out of 3. Right? Wala, emancipation, means someone who frees someone from slavery. Blood ties, right? Nasab. And then nikah, marriage. So those 2 we studied. The third one we didn't, the first one. Why? Because slavery doesn't exist large in our time. Slavery doesn't exist, so therefore the rules related to the emancipatory or emancipator is limited. Number 1, because of that. Number 2, it's also, when it comes to order, it's the last heirs. So if you look at the 24th and 25th heir, it's emancipator. So they're all the way at the end. So therefore, the likelihood of you dealing with it is less. So some many ulama say we don't need to talk about it. Okay, so when we say nasab, blood ties, so not milk ties or other than that, it has to be blood ties. And then when it comes to marriage ties, obviously, husband and wife. Muana, preventatives, killing an heir, differences in religion. So if you want to be more exact, differences in religion, we took the detail of it, which is the difference between kafir inheriting a Muslim, difference of opinion, Muslim inheriting kafir. Majority of scholars and all of them say it's not allowed. And being a slave. Well, so this is all the easy stuff we already covered. But it's good to remember it, because if you were to ever teach it to somebody, you have to have that. And that's another fa'idah. When it comes to ilm, it has to be munadham, it has to be organized. Ilm is not you go everywhere, here and there. Someone asks something, you go in order, linear fashion. Otherwise, not ilm. Right? Someone asks you about shurut al-salah, you go all over the place. Or they ask you about salah, you start with ta'rif, with shurut, arkan, wajib. This is what people are expecting, because knowledge then is organized. Otherwise, what will happen is you might talk about like special cases, and the person doesn't understand what are you doing and how you're doing it, and so what happens, you may not even get to the right conclusion. So the ulama say going order allows you to also remember later if you need to revise something, okay, at least I know the basics. The most important thing now is the total heirs, 25 in total, correct? For our purposes, we studied 23 of them. We excluded the emancipator, so there we go. So 23 is supposed to be 25, we took out 2, so which is the female and male emancipator, so we have 25. And then they're divided across the 4. Usul, furu', hamashi, and marital ties. So if you memorized before the heirs, you should memorize in that order. Usul, furu', hawashi, and marital heirs. You should be able to tell it from the top of your head. So how many are there for the usul? There are 6. Right? Father, mother, paternal grandfather, maternal grandmother, or grandmothers, if there's more than one, paternal grandmother or grandmothers, paternal grandfather's mother. And the reason why it's important to know, there are 6 of them. The mother, father, we get that. Paternal grandfather, that's the father of the father. Maternal grandmother, that's the mother of the mother, right? And then the paternal grandmother, that's the mother of the father. And then the grandfather's mother. As for the others, like for example, the mother's grandfather's mother, they're from Dawil al-Raham. Dawil al-Raham, then the other side. They come at the end. Question people ask, in terms of the nearness, we're going to come to it. The grandmothers, they have a rule, we'll see, in relation to them, so we'll come later. Furu' is only 4. Son, grandson from son, granddaughter from son, and daughter. So these 2 are the most important. Usul, furu'. Furu' is only 4. And why do we need to know the furu' always? Who's going to cut off who? Usually them. Right, the son usually cuts off most people, or the father and grandfather. So you have to know then usul and furu' and the importance of knowing them. Why? Because if most scholars say so-and-so is cut off, they usually say are cut off by 3. Son, grandson, right? And then for some people, daughter. As for granddaughter from son, they doesn't usually cut off, unless in some scenarios, like the maternal brothers. Hawashi is everybody else who's not in that list. So full sister, maternal sister, brother. Full brother, son, paternal brother, son, full paternal uncle's son, paternal half uncle's son. So it goes in that order. That's the order of the strength. And the last one, marital heirs, husband and wife, or wives, if there's more than one, they're all grouped together, they get the same share. So this list, everyone should know in back of their head, and then in order of the strength. And when we talk about strength, we talk about ashab ta'asib as will come. But then at least knowing their categories, we said, is very important. All right, now we move on to prescribed heirs. We studied this already. There's 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Group A is 1/2, 1/4, 1/8. Group B is 2/3, 1/3, 1/6. So the reason why you have to memorize that is it will help us make the total base. It helps us to make the base when it comes to the cases. Heirs now, in detail. So this is not the prescribed heirs. So we're talking prescribed shares and heirs. All right, this is what we're talking about. So, how many prescribed shares? How many are there? So 23 we're studying. There's 25 total. How many of them ashab furud? 11. Right? And others are 13 are, or is it 14? 14 of them are the people ta'asib. So the father and grandfather, they go one group. 1/6 prescribed share. If there's a son or grandson, or sons, right, more than one even. Residual amount only if there's no residual heirs, and ashab ta'asib are not there. And 1/6 plus residual if there's daughters or granddaughters. So that's for the father and the grandfather, both. So 1/6 residual, 1/6 plus residual. That's what you have to remember. So how do you memorize the differences? 1/6 is the least amount. So when does the father get the least amount? When there's a son there, because he's going to take more amount. And then when the father gets the residual amount, and no ta'asib, when there's no farad, when there's no people who are in the residual heirs. There's no, I should say, no subsidiary heirs, right? Is that correct? Yeah, we gotta change that. So let me change that wording. So residual amount only if there are no Subsidiary heirs, not the residual heirs, sorry. Yeah, we changed that word. We're going to edit that. At a 1/6 and the residual amount if there is daughters and granddaughters. So in the second scenario, he gets most because residual only means he's going to get everything that's remaining. And 1/6 plus whatever is remaining, if there's anything remaining, if there's daughters. So really the scenarios, if you wanted to put an order of amount, we can change it around. Right? So I'm going to put it in the other way around to make it easier. 1/6 only if there's son. 1/6 plus if there's anything remaining. That's the key word, if. Why? Because if the daughter is taking 1/2 or 2/3, he'll get his 1/6, and if there's anything left, he gets it. If not, he gets his 1/6, right? But usually they get 1/6 and whatever is remaining. But when there's no subsidiary heirs, which are the 4 people we talked about, he gets the most. So really you have to think about the father and grandfather. When did they get the most? When there's no ashab al-furu'. That's it. So who are they? Sons, grandsons, granddaughters, daughters. Those 4. That's why they're important. For the mother, 1/3 if there's no subsidiary heirs, or 2 or more brothers and sisters of any type. Right? Brothers and sisters mutlaqan, unrestrictedly. So we have to remember that 1/3 if there is no subsidiary heirs, or 2 or more brothers and sisters, and if not, 1/6. Yeah, so the second line is wrong. Let's say 1/6 if this one is there. Yeah, nor. Yeah, exactly. Nor. Exactly. So there we go. Nor 2 or more. Exactly. Jazakallah khair. Maybe can you say 1/6 otherwise, right? We can even write that. So let's edit that. And 1/6 if there's subsidiary heir, or, right? So here it should be nor. Yeah, the first one should say nor. So we're going to edit that. There we go. Nor 2 or more. And the second one, if there is one of those two, she gets 1/6. Okay, so now is it clear to us? So that one was coming up more and more in the lessons, and now we clarified it. Maternal brother and sister, 1/6 if there's 1, and 1/3 if there's 2 or more. Right? We're not talking about here hajab or anything, no exclusion, we're just talking about the rule. And they go together, right? 2 or more of any type. As long as they're maternal, they get 2. If there's 2 or more, they get 1/3. Grandmother and such grandmothers, they get 1/6 if there's no mother to cut her off. That's going to come later as well. And if there are many grandmothers of the same level, key word here, the same level. Who are the same level? So that would be, if you go back to our list, the same level will be paternal and maternal grandmother and paternal grandmother. Those 2 are the same level. Because your mom from your dad and your mom from your mother are on the same level. Who's higher than them is your grandfather's mother. So they're above, they're further, they get cut off. So let's say there's a grandmother from your mom's side and your dad's side, they together take 1/6. But if your grandfather is alive and he has a mother, she gets cut off because even though they're the same class, the jihad, they're too far up. So that's what we mean when it's same. So when it says same level, just think as long as it's not the paternal grandfather's mother. And so if you had a list, it's like she's over here and these 2 are here. Right? So when we say jihad, we're not talking about paternal and maternal here because the grandmothers are all the same. If there's 2 or 3 or more, they all get the 1/6. They are all sharing this amount. If there's more than them, same level, right? Doesn't matter, right? That's an important point to highlight. Although it's rare to find cases where you have a paternal grandmother still alive, right? Because that means the grandpa's alive and his mom's alive, which is kind of rare. Unless they're a very young family, it's like a rare, right? طيب, so that's the point important. When it says the same level, that's what we mean. Daughter and full sisters, 2/3 is 2 or more, 1/2 there's only 1. And then lastly we have if she has brothers. So this is for daughters and full sisters. In the case, and in the case means they have to be present in the case, not present in her life and died. In the case that we're talking about, it's still here. Then they share with them 2-1. So that's daughters and full sisters, correct? Granddaughter then, I split the granddaughter and paternal sister, otherwise they're the same. But they're slightly different for the granddaughter, so we split them. Granddaughter, 2/3 if there's 2 or more. 1/2 if there's only 1. 1/6 if there's a daughter who receives a half. In this case, if there are multiple granddaughters, they all share 1/6. That's another thing, right? If there's many of them, they are like 1. And if she has brothers or cousins, in the case, then she shares with them 2 to 1. Keyword cousins. So when the ulama say same daraja, they mean her brother and her cousin. So who's her cousin? That's a good point, right? Who's the cousin? So yeah, that's one. So it could be, for example, her brother or one going down, but usually they say same level. So for example, now who's the cousin of this? Cousin to who? She's a cousin. So it will be for her a cousin, and for him, who's their father? Is that their uncle? Yeah, exactly. So that's the uncle's son. That's what it means, cousin. So they're going that way. So you could say one son, for example, her brother, or her uncle's son, which is going to be her cousin, right? Yeah, that's what they say, same daraja. Because if you draw it out, they're in the same level, even though they're a little bit further from one another, or we see it, but they're not in level. So the point, the ulama say brothers or cousins. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what. So that's what. See, or even going down too. Yeah, exactly. If it goes even lower. But the reason why it's important is because she's different. Granddaughter is different than the daughter and the paternal sisters, because usually they're only their brothers. There's nobody else at the level. So the key is that we're gonna say brothers and cousins. That's the key. And so if you draw out to yourself, you can see why. Because everybody else, you only have a brother or you have a sister, right? You're not gonna go someone lower than you. So for her, because she's already down low, it's going to be on that side. And inshallah, we'll show it later. But that's important to remember, cousins. Although it doesn't happen often, you just have to remember that. Who can she share with? Paternal sisters, the same, except that there's no cousins in there. It's going to be on her brother. So same thing, rule. Well, that's so most of us already memorize this. And lastly, husband and wife. Husband 1/4, there's no subsidiary heir, otherwise 1/8. Afwan 1/2, sorry, I mixed it up, sorry. So let's edit that. I apologize, this is like a work in progress here. So there we go, 1/2, 1/4. Right, we put the wife ones. Husband 1/2, there's no subsidiary, 1/4 if there is. And then wife 1/4 if there's no subsidiary heir, 1/4, 1/8 if there is. If there are multiple wives, they all share the same amount. Is it clear? That I think everybody, hopefully there's no mistakes there. We have to run through it again, but inshallah it becomes clear. Okay, now the residual heirs and their strength. So when it comes to the strengths, we have to remember there's jiha and there's qurba. Jiha is going to be sonship, fatherhood, brotherhood, unclehood. So either your sons or your fathers, you fall under brotherhood, brothers or uncles. The last category will be slave, free, those who emancipate, but we took them out. So jiha is the categories. Right? Son, father, brother, uncle. These are the jihad. And when it comes to qurba, inside the one jiha, up versus down. So the one who is the top, the son, is the strongest in jiha wal qurba. He's the strongest when it comes to all the heirs who are ta'asib. At the same time, he's the closest to the deceased. So therefore he goes top, then the grandson. And then the father, and then paternal grandfather going upward. Right, so his fatherhood will keep going up if there's a need. Brotherhood, we said full brother, son going downward. So that's another time. Some cases there could be a full brother, he died, and his son is still alive. He'll take their place. Although it's not often, but it can be. Paternal brother, and then paternal brother's son going downward. Full paternal uncle's son going downward. Paternal half uncle, right, and then his son going downwards. That's it. So for which one? Yeah, so let's see here. So we have the asaba here, full sister, paternal sister, granddaughter, daughter. So the 1/6 part, you mean 1/6 and 1/2, that one? Yeah, that's gonna come in the hijab rules. I'm gonna put it there. Yeah, but you're right. That's like, so right now we're stating as is, but you're right. Like in case one is missing, the other took its place, they will do the same. So we're gonna mention the rules of hijab. Otherwise, right now we're just saying who goes with who. So for example, whenever you think full sister, you think a paternal sister. Granddaughter. Otherwise, they can all work together. You're right. Like one can go out, one can take place. But the reason I'm putting this way so you can see when you see them in a case, you're going to look for who's who. If you see a son, you look for her, his sister, the daughter. If you see a full sister, you look for paternal sister. If you look for you see daughter, you see granddaughter. But in the case, like he's saying, there's a granddaughter, a daughter, a full sister. Yeah, they can work together too, but that will come later for that in hajab. I put it there for a reason. Okay, طيب. So let's talk about then. So I think most people know the heirs. Let's talk about the types of exclusion, hajab and qawa'id. There are three types of hajab. Exclusion due to description. So hajab al-wasf. In other words, someone fell into a preventative. Someone fell into a preventative. They either killed an heir, or they have a different religion, or they are a slave. So it'll be wasf, not be ayn. So that person description out because he did something. Complete, that's now the other one, hajab al-tam, the complete one. The heir is cut off completely by another heir, and partial, they're cut off by, not completely, but their amount is lowered. Right? Heir receives lower amount, right, of share, I should say. I'm missing that word. Okay, so who cannot be cut off completely? We didn't put there, how many? 6, good. So we have to write down in our notes. 6 heirs cannot be cut. Who can name them? Mother, father, son, daughter, huh? Yeah? Husband, wife. Khalas, there we go. Those 6 cannot be cut off. So I'm going to put that in the notes. So it's good to always know that. So when you do your case, you start with those 6. Why? Because those who can cut off, you start with them. Those who can, you can. Otherwise, if you do the other way around, you might end up cutting off someone who's not cut off. Right? Okay, the rules. I just took it right from the slides. Foundational heir that's closer cuts off foundational heir that is further the same gender. So in this case, an example, father cuts off grandfather. Grandmother is cut off by mother. Grandmother from maternal and paternal grandmother cut off the grandfather's mother. So all usul, the closer you are, they cut off. And a subsidiary male heir that is closer cuts off subsidiary male heir that is further. So all those ashab al-furu' who are dhakar, who are male, they cut off the subsidiary males that, right, who are closer. So son cuts off grandson. My grandson cut off grandson, like this. Male foundational heir or subsidiary heir cuts off all marginal heirs. This is probably the most important one. So those are ashab al-usul al-furu' who are males. So if you think about it, who are we talking about? Who are they? Father, grandfather, son, grandson. These 4. They cut off all al-hawashi mutlaqan, unrestrictedly. And that's the most correct opinion. So we have to remember that, because we're saying grandfather, ulama differ than that, right? But we're saying grandfather included. He cuts off also paternal brothers. That's the mawqif we're going to take, but because it's strong, closer to the qawa'id. Otherwise, the ulama differ from the grandfather. And what are the examples? Can grandfather cut off the paternal brothers? Can grandfather cut off, or should he share with the full brothers as well? Or these kind of scenarios. And the reason why they say it is because he's further up. So they say, is it right that he cuts off someone who's closer? But then they say he's usul and he's hawashi. But they say, but then he's still the brother and he's the grandfather. So anyways, we're going to go with this. But if you go in the books of fiqh and you take a different view, that's okay. Full brothers cut off paternal brothers and paternal sisters. Why? Because the full brother is closer, right? They're all brothers and sisters, but he's closer. He has 2 parents, they have one relationship. Female subsidiary heirs cut off maternal siblings. So the maternal siblings, what's unique about them, because they are maternal, they get cut off by the daughters and granddaughters. Likewise, they get cut off by sons and grandsons, because they fall into the 3rd rule and this rule. So if a son is there, cut off maternal siblings. If a daughter is there, he'll cut off them too. So that's the most unique one of that era part. A male marginal heirs, people of ta'asib, that are closer, cut off those who are further. When we say closer, what does that mean to you? That's a good point. Closer in what way? Jiha, right? So sons, then fathers, then brothers, then uncles. And then within that, you can say qurba. Within that, who's closer, who's not. So you have those, always remember, sons, fathers, brothers, uncles. And the last bit here, when daughters receive 2/3, they cut off the granddaughter unless she shares with her brothers or the children of her cousin, or I think I should say, or their children, good, or her cousins and their children. So there's the clarity of it. So when daughters receive 2/3, that means 2 or more, they cut off the granddaughter unless she has brothers or their brothers' children, or her own cousins or their children. So together, what happens is they're going to all share how much? 1/6. So the idea is that if someone's taking 2/3, the rule is daughters, granddaughters, full sisters, paternal sisters, they always work around 2/3, either 1/2 and 1/6. But when someone takes 2/3 by themselves, usually it means the other one will get cut off unless. And the reason behind that is, we said from when someone completes 2/3, the fractions that we're working with, 2/3 a lot. That's the biggest share you can get. So the reason we often, if someone's taking 2/3, either you're going to cut off somebody else or someone else is going to be joined with someone else, because at ta'asib you have to get something. So if you wanted to think about it, let's say there's 2 daughters and 1 granddaughter and her brother. So the 2 daughters get how much? 2/3, and then the granddaughter and her brother get 1/6. Why did she get 1/6? Because her brother's out of ta'asib, he's coming in too. So there has to be something left for them in some way. So some ways that's one way to think about it. Although those cases are not very common, why you have this, because as we'll see, that most cases is not the case. You will find that it varies, but you have to know that. When full sisters receive 2/3, they cut off the paternal sister unless she shares with her paternal brothers. Same concept, except she has less people to share with. And then what Tariq was mentioning, sisters get residual amount when they're daughters. This qa'idah means that akhawat, that all sisters, whether they're paternal, full, they are like treated as asabat inda banat. They're treated as people residual heirs when there's daughters. So what does that mean? Daughter gets 1/6. Let's say the daughter gets 1/6, to 1/2. And then how much is the sisters going to get? So that's an interesting point. So we're going to say, well, if we go back to what we just said earlier, go up for a little bit in your notes. She gets 1/6 if there's, where is it? Yeah, so that's what Tariq was mentioning. So here's the rules. We're going to mention it here. So if the daughter gets 1/2, how much does the full sister get? 1/6. So that's what we meant by ta'asib, because the residual amount is going to be 1/6. Why? Because together they make 2/3. Now someone say, why can't they be half-half? Well, it can be half-half. It can be. But we're saying here that imagine then they get 2/3. They get 1/6. 1/2. Then they're going to take the residual amount. But we have to be daughters, 2 or more. So therefore, the best way to understand is the daughter and sister work together as halves. It's the paternal sister and the granddaughter who are going to change everything. So daughter, let's imagine a case. We have a daughter, 1/2. Granddaughter, 1/6. Residual goes to sister. Then take out the granddaughter. You have a daughter and you have a sister, half-half. So the sister and daughter are on the same level. They're not really, because one is usul and one is furu'. So imagine you have a case, we have a daughter and full sister. How much do they get? Half-half, correct? Now you put in the granddaughter. What happens? So granddaughter takes 1/6. Daughter gets the 1/2, and then residual goes to full sister. So why did it happen? This is what Tariq was saying, because we said sisters of any type get residual amount when they are daughters. So it has to be 2 or more. Either 2 daughters or 1 daughter, 1 granddaughter. When there's 2, so daughters, think daughters all, whoever's daughter. Once there's 2 of them, they're going to be taken together 2/3. So 1 daughter gets 1/2 and granddaughter gets 1/6, together is 2/3. And then there's a full sister. What are we going to give to her? We have to give it what's remaining. Why? Because these 2 are ashab furu'. So remember, furu' are stronger than hawashi, but the full sister can't get cut off by them. So how will she interact? If it was the son could take her out. But because these are daughters, we give them their shares, then we give her the little remaining. And the ulama said the reason why this is important is because if there's no granddaughter and there's a daughter, these full sister and daughter are on the same level. They're both going to get the same shares. But when you put a granddaughter in, it would make sense to some of us the granddaughter is going to get less. Right? Because she usually supposed to get less. But the problem is she's furu' and she's hawashi. So the Sharia then gives the ruling to what? The people who are furu' subsidiary are closer to the heir in some ways. But because they're in that category, give them the 1/6, give her 1/2, and then give her whatever remains, whatever that is. So the key we're going to remember is full daughter, full sister, granddaughter, paternal daughter, paternal sister. These 4, they usually revolve around the 2/3. So whenever you see 2 daughters, so maybe we should put in the notes what is meant by 2 daughters. Either 2 daughters or 1 daughter and 1 granddaughter. That means that's 2. So half. Yeah, because there's nobody to gonna make them get ta'asib here. Because that's be daughters. Two. So either two daughters, two full daughters, or one daughter, one granddaughter. So why? Because 1/2, 1/6, 2/3. When there's two daughters, 2/3. So that's the whole idea. It goes back to 2/3. And the reason why this is called asaba ma'al ghayr, because they're sharing in a way that's not really a brother or sister relationship. These are all sisters and the daughters. They're sharing, but they're actually not like brothers. So it's a kind of relationship. But the reason why it's interesting is because when you look at the math of the cases, you will notice that it only makes sense to do that. Otherwise, if we don't, we're going to mess up the math. So this is very important, and we're going to go to the example of that later. But this you have to review. So you have to review cases with a daughter, granddaughter, full sister, paternal sister. You should be able to do all four of them. Because if it happens, you have to know how it works. Otherwise, what's going to happen? You're going to be like daughter 1/2, full sister 1/2, granddaughter 1/6. Is that what we're going to do? And you're like, mashallah, it's all finished. No, it's wrong, right? This is wrong. It's easy to do that way, but that's wrong. What you have to do first, I would do usul, furu', hawashi. If I was you, I start with usul, and I start with ashab furu', and then you go to hawashi. Why? Because it's clear then to you. And that's why when we're thinking about this, always think, if you see a full sister, look for the granddaughter, daughter, and paternal sister. That's what I would do. So if you make notes, you're going to say these four always going together, these two go together, these two, so you can see in your mind. Yes? So who's going to answer that? You have a daughter and a paternal sister. Half. Why? So one daughter, half. Who is supposed to do half? Full sister. There's no full sister. So paternal sister pretends to be full sister because only one of them. No one can take her out. No one can reduce her amount. So she takes the half too. So that's why you make those four. So for your practice, you take all four of those heirs, and you just do all the possibilities. Why? So you can see in your head how it works. So essentially what is happening, well, one takes 1/2, and there's nobody else, the other one will take the half. If there's going to be all four of them, who gets kicked out of this case? The paternal sister is good. And if there's only 3 of them, then we're going to say, okay, furu' first, then give her the residual. Because 2 daughters make sisters residual amount. That's it, daughters. Yes. You do too. If there's so that's a good. If there's 2 granddaughters and 1 sister, what do we do? Huh? It's the same thing. So we should put that as well, right? 2 granddaughters as well. Yeah. I don't know. My other notes I had it, but okay, let's write that. That counts as well. He's right, because in the situation there's 2 granddaughters and full sister. It's a rare case, maybe, right? But let's say there is. What are we going to do? Daughters and sisters. All you have to remember is daughters. If you see daughters, khalas. Asaba is happening, ta'asib is happening. So that's why it's important to think about daughters as a catch-all. Any type, there's 2 of any type of daughters. Put them together how you want. Granddaughters or daughters. There's only 2 classes of them, so you can't have that many cases. But the reason I'm saying this is because when you put those 4 together, people make mistakes. The only reason why is because what they'll do is, full daughter, they'll give her amount, then they give the sister the full amount. What they're supposed to do is supposed to give the granddaughter their rights, then turn to the sisters. Yes? Exactly, yeah, because of the closeness. Right? The one's close to us. Okay, so that makes sense, that one. So when you go, you're going to review those cases. That's one of the cases you have to. If all the cases you study is probably the one that you have to review more, because if you forget it, you're going to make a mistake. How to divide the estate, most of us we know, but you have to remember the steps, because maybe the scenarios we'll get are like this. What do you do first? First, deceased passed away, we have to do the following. Pay for the janazah, everything that counts in it. Number 2, all debts connected to the estate, so zakat, etc., rented amounts, anything that's safekeeping, for example, money he has or somebody as a trust, has a return, outstanding debts owed to people, and then the bequest, the wasiyah, up to 1/3. After all that, you do the division. So the reason I'm saying this, because we could look at an example in the exam. I could give you a full case. Somebody died and everything that's related to it. So you have to first clear his accounts, then do the division. And we didn't do that case like that, right? So you have to be able to do that. First clear his accounts, and then you go. Because that's the first step you're supposed to do. You can't be like start dividing something you don't know. And what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to call the assessor to come and see how much is his estate worth, where's the money, is it borrowed? Because some cases, there's nothing left. When you finish all these steps, 0. You're done. You already finished the case. Because you pay everybody and he has $0, 0 cents. So this is important to know that. Because in real life, someone may ask you a case, you have to start there. Okay, you're not going to be like, okay, who's the heirs? Wait, let's first do all the rights. Okay, now how to divide the case. The rule, the Hadith ibn Abbas in Muslim, you give the heirs, the prescribed heirs a share, whatever is remaining. If there's anything, you give it to the closest male heir. That's the hadith. So that's how we start. Ashab al-furud, then ta'asib. And from Ashab al-furud, it would be preferable to do usul, furu' al-hawashi. It's preferable. Why? So that way you cleared. Or another way of doing it, you start with Ashab al-furud, the 6 who can't get cut off. After that, I do everybody else. Why? So I don't make sure I protect myself from making a major mistake. So for example, a mother, father. So by the time you see the son in there, you see daughter, you see father, you already know where it's going to go. But then what's important is that you have to have a system, because with so many heirs, 25 heirs, right? Or in our case, 23. So if I give you a case, you have to have a system. You're not going to go through the whole list and say, okay, who's here, who's not here. If we do that, it's going to take too long. Right? And that's another problem people have. People imagine everyone's going to inherit it. No, they're not. That's another thing. They're not all going to inherit. So what are you going to do? You have a system hierarchy. So if the question, if it's about speed, it's clear. Top 6. Then for ashab usul, furu, hawashi, khalas. Then ashab ta'asib, looking for sons, fathers, brothers, like this. So here, the case window now. Yes. So the azwaj, they also fixed. They don't get cut. So yes, you should give them. You can give them all the same. But you're right. I would say that those who can't get off, the 6 who can't get cut off, are best to give. So from them is the father, and also the wives. So you give to why? Because if you start with half furud, you're going to start with grandpa. You can get cut off. So maybe the best to start with the people who can't get cut off. Then you know you didn't do anything wrong, because that will be a khatar fahish. That was a bad mistake, right? Because imagine you cut off the father like la ilaha illallah, uquq al-walidain, right? Who did this case? Because it would be embarrassing. Because some mistakes are forgivable. Some is like, come on, do you know anything? Right? So we have to be careful, because sometimes it happens when you're doing the case. And also remember the rule, some ulama mentioned 2 to 1. That's also, it has its function. So if you see some cases, you feel like something wrong, you always double check. As for the totals, right, the base of the case window, we already said before, Group A, Group B, when they come together, how does it work? Group A, you take the highest denominator. So who's Group A again? 1/2, 1/4, 1/8. So 8. If they're all there, you take the highest. If there's 1/2 and 1/4, 4 will be the base. If it's people, all 3 of them are there, 8 will be the base. If it's Group B, right, then you take 1/6 to be the base, or 6. If not, 3, like that. Yes. So generally, yeah. So they have to start off with the dead first, his haqq, then the haqq of the mal. So صاحب المال, ثم المال. And so the person who died first, then his wealth. In his wealth, you start with the huquq of Allah, then huquq al-nas. So the ulama differ on this, but this is the order we're going with. صاحب المال, ثم المال. And in the mal, huquq Allah, then huquq al-nas. I like that. So the example, so you have to clean him, bury him first. Then his wealth, Allah's rights first, then the rights of the people. And from the rights of the people, their debts, then the wasiyah. Because the wasiyah is it's like a gift, where you can't give gift if you owe money. Right? You have to clear your accounts. So it should be in this order. And the ulama differ on this, but this is the order that we're suggesting from the difference of opinion there. If there's a mix of Group A and Group B cases, we already said, if there's a case that has 1/2, you give it 6 as the base. If there's any heir that has 1/4, it goes 12 as the base, and 1/8, you go 24 the case. I think remember this. And if you go to the next page, you see a case window, just for our own reminder of how it looks. So most people remember that, right? 6, 12, 24. So when they mix Group A and Group B, you just remember 6, 12, 24. So if I'm seeing like a mixed group, I see half, I'm thinking 6. Right? If I'm seeing a quarter in there, I'm thinking 12. If I'm seeing that 1/8 in there, I'm seeing 24. And this will save us time from doing the traditional way of figuring out the common denominators, etc. Although we'll see that this is also very useful as well. So let's move now to what's remaining. So now we're talking about the cases. So a typical case, I think most people they should know by now how to do it. So we're not going to review that. We'll start with awl. Right? Awl was the first one we studied. So what is that? When the sum of all the shares of the heirs exceeds the total shares. That's it. We have to reduce because we have too many shares. Right? Everyone needs more. So what do? Increase the total of the case from the original amount to the sum of the total of all shares put together. So example, changing 6 to 8. So there's the example. So everyone understands that that's it. That's easy, clear. So because we need 8, the new base is going to be 8. It's supposed to be 6, we made it 8. That's it. And by doing that, we reduce everyone's share correctly. The awal is easy then. It's very easy. Right? Too many, just change the base. Right? I think everyone knows that one. Right? That one's, I think, the easy one. Inshallah. Right? So when you go, you can practice more on that, but that's one example. Then the Rad is the one we said is more complicated. But the ulama obviously have mentioned different ways of doing it. So here we're going to say, what is Rad? Redistribution. When there are remaining shares, but because there are no residual heirs and only prescribed shares. In other words, the people of Ta'asib are not there, so we have to redistribute to the people of who are Ashab al-Fard, not including the spouses, right? So we have to put that, maybe we have to put that in, not including spouses, so it becomes clear. 3 scenarios. There's only one prescribed heir, they take everything. There are more than one heir in the same class, they share the remaining. There are more than one heir from different classes. In other words, there are different heirs, different classes, they're not the same, they're not brothers and sisters, etc. In this case, the prescribed heirs are given inheritance, both the original amount and residual amount is redistributed to them, spouse is not included. So there is the statement. So essentially, the case that you have to study is the third case. Because what you want to know is that I have extra left over, I have given everyone the share, I need to give now to who? The people as have furud, not including spouses, that's tough to know. So the calculations are only 2 types, and there are 2 examples in front of us. If there is no spouse, decrease the total case from the original amount to the sum total of all the shares put together. So let's give the example here. Without wife, daughter gets 1/2, granddaughter 1/6. Right? So what do we get up? We get 3 and 4, so that's it. Change the base to 4. So instead of the daughter getting 50%, how much does she get now? 75%. And then the granddaughter goes from 1/2 to 1/6 to 1/4. That's the easy one. When you put the wife in, that's the part where the ulama have mentioned different ways of doing it. The easiest way we mentioned is to make a case without the wife or the husband first. So figure out how much are the heirs supposed to get without them, then introduce them. So first figure out how much is remaining. Right? So do the case without the wife or husband. Then add them into the case. When you add them into the case, the tricky part was how do you find out the new base? Now, truth be told, some ulama, they mentioned you can make 2 different cases. You don't have to do this. Right? So what you can do is you can make 2 cases, right, with the wife and give her share, and what's remaining of the taraka, go and divide between these ones. So for example, we have 100% of the estate, give the wife quarter, 75 is left, let's divide the 75 left over between these 2. But the problem we're saying is that that's good when it comes to the numbers, but if you want to make a case window, I just have to know the base. So that's another thing you have to remember. Not all the shuyukh even say you have to make windows. You can just use the calculator and use just a division, just divide. But that will require you to know the amount of the case, the estate to begin with, and you're not drawing or writing anything down. You're just going to calculate on your phone. So I would not recommend that if you're doing a case because you could make a mistake. You put the wrong number in the calculator and just divide everything, and you didn't save nothing. So Allahu A'lam, what you did. So better to write down. So since we're using the cases, what we're going to do, remember this. If a husband or wife receives 1/4, the new base is 16. And the wife receives 1/8, the new base is 32. How do we know that? So look, I did the case without the wife first. That's why she's in gray. Then I put the wife back in the case. Wife gets 1/4. 4 times 4 remaining amount equals 16. Is it clear? 4 is remaining, and wife gets 1/4. 4 by 4 is 16. Okay, how about if wife gets 1/8? So how much is remaining? You're going to multiply. So usually it's going to be a 4 factor. Usually it's going to be 32. And you can try it. I tried it more than once. It should work. 16 and 32. Right? Again, how about husband gets 1/2? We said usually there's no rad with 1/2. Because when does rad happen? Rad usually happens in group B heirs. Am I correct? Group B heirs, 2/3, 1/6, 1/3. So memorize that. Group B heirs have rad. Look, sister 1/2, maternal sister 1/6, daughter 1/2, granddaughter 1/6. It's usually them. So because their numbers are 2, 6, 2/3, right, inshallah, it should be fine. Because we're talking about what's remaining. Right, so this is, again, try it, inshallah, it should work. 16 and 32. And if you find a different way of doing it, no problem. Right? As long as you get the answer. You have a question? Yeah. So we said it's group B. And this is based on inference. Some people looked around all the cases, found that rad with the spouse or not, it usually happens when there's a group B errors in there. So the reason I'm showing you this, there are different ways. Like I said, if you want to make two different cases, that's also okay. So in the test, you can have the space, you can do, inshallah. As long as you get it right, as long as you did something wrong, right? So you can do it your own way, inshallah. We're not forcing people to follow the way we learn. As long as it's correct. But if you make something up and you get it wrong, then that's on you. Because you're either making your own madhab or your own way. So we want things that make sense, inshallah. And the ulama realized have different ways of doing it. So that's why I mentioned all these ways. And also there are some other ways, but we're just going to stay with this for now. Yep. So usually when there is something left over, when you do the case, is usually when there's a wife or spouse or just sister, people who in group B. So usually when there's people in group B, there's going to be 2/3, 1/3, 1/6. These people are usually in a situation when they come together. They're the ones usually when something left over. When you put the spouse in, it becomes complicated because the spouse is in the group. It's group A. That's why when you put the two cases together, we get stuck on the base. So you see now how. So some messages to two cases. One with the wife, give her everything. What's remaining? Turn around and give that. So now go back to my example. We didn't finish. Since we gave the wife 4 minus 16. That's a very important point. How much left now? 12. Now we give the sister 75% of 3 out of 4 out of 12, which is 9. So that's why some message making two cases easier. Why? Because you separated. And there's another benefit. You don't have to make one big cases. In the past, it was preferable to put everything in one big case. So some pages, mashallah, some of the fiqh books have long cases. It confused the people. Why? Because why are we doing this? Because maybe it's the same paper, maybe it was because you see, but some ulama say, you know what? The modern way, Sheikh Sa'ad Khatran, for example, his kitab, Tasheel Fara'id, Hisab al-Fara'id, he takes the difference, he says the new way, just two different cases. Because in modern time, where we can make it easier by getting to the answer, what we do, wife first, since it's group A, and then do the other as group B. But for us, since we're putting it together, what we did is we found the base now, take away 4, that leaves us 12. The sister gets 3 out of 4. 75% of 12 is 9. And the maternal brother gets a quarter, 1 out of 4 of 12, which is 3. Done. And I think last time we were discussing this, so that's the solution. So yeah, so whatever she gets, yeah, exactly, and then you do the same thing. So you can try it inshallah after and see if it works. I tried all of them, and alhamdulillah it worked, right, for the most part, yes. Yeah, exactly, you have to take 8. No, 8 by 32 is 4, still 4. Because she's going to get 1/8 of 32, which is 4. Yeah, so still, like I said, you get the same amount. So you can't change her amount, everyone else will go up. Okay, let's move to special cases. This is the part where we, the reason why we want to focus on the review. To fix the two issues. Number one, the successive case is easy. One person dies before another, one before the distribution and death of another. So we make two cases, one for the person who died, and then everything's transferred to his heirs, and then a second one for the deceased who died before distribution was done, and you give it to his heirs. Easy. So two cases solve this issue. Before it was one big case, the ulama said you do two cases. Inheritance of a missing person, a person who has disappeared for an extended period of time, we don't know if he's dead or alive, so we have to use the fiqh. If he's missing person, he's supposed to be deceased, right? So if the person who is supposed to be deceased, let's say like the person whose money we're talking about, then what we're going to do, we're going to wait for the judge to make the judgment, give us the window. After that, we're going to consider him as mayyit hukmi, as legally dead. And then his estate is divided. So a father who goes missing, his children can't touch the money until we give the qadi, or the imam, whoever makes the decision, for how long we have to wait before after that. After that, which we'll distribute. Because it's his money, you can't take his money away without right. So either he's made haqiqi or hukmi, either he's dead for real or legally. If a missing person is an heir, meaning the father died, but then there's a brother or a son we don't know where he is, then the remaining heirs wait for a fixed period of time to end before they distribute. If they can't wait, then we'll give them the minimum possible, and we'll give the the missing person maximum possible, and then after that we wait. So how do we do with two cases? So look at the example in front of us here. So here, I showed now an easier way to do this. Inshallah. So you see this, you're going to try to memorize this one for the test. So what we did was, last time we had the same case, but what we did now, it says there, you make two cases, one with the missing heir and one without. Then each heir is given the least share of the two cases, and the remaining is held until time period. So there's more than one way of doing this. So here what I did was, first case without the son, second case with the son. Then to find the common denominator, this is very important, the common denominator, you just multiply the two together. Because in this case, 3 and 2 are mutually exclusive, so the easiest thing to type them together. So how do we get then how much the daughter will get? So the last time I told you, you could just add them together. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 over 6. Or another way of doing it, the multiple to get to 6 for the first case is 2. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. Another one is 3. So 3 divided by 1 is 3. So between these two, which one is smaller? 2 over 6, or in other words, 1/3. So here, there's multiple ways of doing it. One way to do it, just look at both cases. In the first case, the daughter gets either 1/2. Second case, she gets 1. So 1/3 and 1/2. So we're going to give her 1/3. But in this case, because I made the base 6 by multiplying 3 times 2, then I will cross multiply as well. Whatever got me to 6, I'm going to use that multiple for the first case and another multiple for the second case. And this will become useful because this will take away any problems or any case. Because the example we gave last time worked, but some examples we gave people got stuck. So this, we're going to use this method inshallah. So what it is, you first find the base by multiplying the two cases together, 6. So how do we get to 6? 3 times 2. So therefore, everyone case 1, everything you have, you multiply 2. The second case, everything you multiply by 3. You choose the smaller of the two, and that's it. For the son, because either he gets half or he gets 0, we give him 0. Full uncle, either he gets 0 or he gets 3 out of 6, half, we give him 0. And for the daughter, we're going to give her 1/3 or half. Half, the third is smaller, give her 1/3, 4 is remaining. So the only thing that's changed, I added the numbers on top. Otherwise, it's the same. So remember last time we did it, we just added 1 plus 1 is 2, right? And 3 times 2 is 6. So this time we just multiply everything. So we did 3 times 2 is 6. So therefore, the first case, multiply everything by 2. Second case, everything by 3. And this will make sure that you won't make a mistake in any case. Okay, so this is a stronger way. This is a better way. Inshallah, you won't make any mistake in any other case, even if the numbers are bigger or smaller. Is it making sense? It's almost like saying you make two cases, which is smaller. But the reason I'm showing this method is because what if the numbers, right, are not gonna, the first method we use might not work. This method always works. And so there's some ulama mentioned, like Shaykh Hassan and others, they use this method, and I said this is much better and easier. Although if you look carefully, 1/3, 1/2, 1/3, 0, 0. Khalas. You're just choosing the smallest amounts. But the question we're trying to figure out, I want to know how much is remaining. You see, why am I using this method? I want to know 4 is remaining. But if you use the other method, you're just going to say, okay, 1/3 is smaller than 1/2, so the daughter gets 1/3, son gets nothing because he's missing, and the full uncle will get nothing because we don't know the son's missing. But now if I ask you, how much are we supposed to keep aside? So you'd be like, I don't know. So obviously what you could do is say, well, 100% and give her 1/3. What's remaining is how much? 66%. So you see, you're using numbers now. So some people don't like the fractions, they just use the numbers. How much does it take? Give her 1/3, 66%. 4 divided by 6 is 66%. Khalas. So that's it. It's the same thing, just a different way of doing it. 4 over 6 is 66%. If you told us keep 66% safe, it's okay. If you told her keep this much money safe, it's the same thing. So if you told someone a fraction or a number or a percentage, you have the same answer. As long as it's right, that's what I'm trying to highlight. So here you could say that at least 3 different ways of doing this case. What we're trying to do, we're trying to find the best way of doing it. Because when test comes, you want to also make sure you didn't get a problem that you didn't test before and it didn't work. Which is probably what would happen, right? If I give you an example, you might have got it wrong because the method I show you only works maybe one way, it doesn't work in another case. So this is what inshallah will always work. Is it clear? So 3 times 2 equals 6. So now how do we get to there? For the first case, what's the multiple for 3, 3 and 6? Is 2. So therefore all that case will be multiplied by 2. That will be the on the calculation side. Then when you get the full amount, you choose the smallest one. So 2 over 6, or is it 3 over 6? Which one should I give the daughter? 2 over 6. Okay, so when I multiply all of this by 2, I put it at the top, the first line. All the shares in the first case. Yeah, so see the case with the son and without the son. So with the son, now that I got the new base, 3 times 2 is 6 is a full base. So now I'm going to take the multiple between 3 and 6, which is 2. Why? Because how did I get to 6? And times 3 times 2. So, and for 2, what's the multiple to get to 6? It's 3. Yeah, look at that one, right? It's not all people. Is it clear? Some people? Okay, after we'll explain it. Is it clear to some people? Is it clear or is it harder? It's easier, I think. Oh, come on, guys. You guys engineers. What's going on here? I'm the English guys. My math is not that good either. Yeah, I did. But the problem is it's foolproof. Okay. Well, I don't know. I give you options. Use what's easy for you. How about that? Right? With this method, I feel like it's clear. But for some people, it might be another method. As long as you get to the bottom, which is how much is remaining. So for the mushkila here, for the person who's missing, the fiqh behind it is clear. How much do we give all heirs? The least amount. How much do you say for the missing person? Maximum amount. That's all you have to remember. The question is how much is the maximum minimum? That's how you have to determine. So if you use a different method, I don't mind, right? It's okay. This is just the one way. There's 3 different ways, right? So this is one of them. But the reason I mentioned this one because I feel this one is clear for some. It can be clear for some. If it's not, then khalas, use what's easier. Let's move to the Hanafidite. It's the most important one because we're going to use the same method, right? But we're going to get to a clear answer because look at the question we took last time. We got stuck. We can solve it this way. So the mas'ala, the khulasa that mas'ala, Hermaphrodite, we don't know the gender, male or female. So what we have to do, we have to first look at the fiqh. If the hermaphrodite cannot be distinguished as male or female, we have to wait until puberty. Okay? And then we figure out which signs are apparent. If the division of the inheritance is needed before then, because the hermaphrodite is an heir, and we want to know like what they're going to get, then the ulama say you have 2 possibilities. One based on whether they are female, and the other as a male. So all the heirs are given the lesser of 2 shares, and the remainder is left until the gender is clear, just like the missing person. So the second scenario, just like the missing person. You give everybody the least amount, and you give the hermaphrodite the maximum amount, and we wait for puberty. Now let's say the hermaphrodite died before reaching puberty, or the hermaphrodite even after puberty, we still don't know if they're male or female, which today's time is very low chance, right? The ulama mentioned today, it's not a very, very low chance because the doctors now, they have many methods to figure out. So that's the benefit. But let's say either they died before puberty, so we don't know if they're male or female, or even after puberty, we still don't know if this is a brother or a sister. In that case, what do? We have to give how much to hermaphrodite? We give them half the share of male and female, and everybody else we give them their shares. But the question is that when you give the hermaphrodite half their shares, what will happen to everybody else's shares? Naturally, they're going to get their share and they're going to get their half. So there's going to be some kind of change. We're going to see the example, the calculation. Now take a look. So now, this is the case we did last time. So this is a different method than we did. So take a look. Here, we have the case of a husband, a father, mother, and hermaphrodite. So the husband gets 1/4 because there's a subsidiary heir, right? Hermaphrodite could be some male or female. Okay, then the father gets, right, 1/6 or remainder, and the mother gets 1/6, and remainder goes to hermaphrodite. So the first case, we'll pretend the hermaphrodite's a male. Assume it's a male. What do we do then? 3 for the husband, 2 for the father, 2 for the mother, 5 for the hermaphrodite's son. Okay. Next, we assume that the hermaphrodite is a daughter. So 3 for the husband again, 1 for the father. Why 1 for the father? Because it's a residual amount. And then 2 for the mother. And then the hermaphrodite gets the half because it's daughter. So this is the one that creates 12 again, right? 12 with 12. Okay, now, last time we just said 12 plus 12 equals 24, or 12 times 2 equals 24. Here, I think it should say 2 afwan on top of the model. So I made a mistake here. I'm going to edit this. It should say 2 on the top of that case. So I'm going to edit that one. So the multiple, same thing we mentioned before. If on top there, Afwan, it's supposed to be 24. It's supposed to be 2, I think. No, Afwan, yeah, this is correct. Yeah, it's not the same case. So here, what do we do? Now that we have 12 in one case, 12 in another case, to find the total, what you do is you look at both cases. And both cases in this case are equal. So they both have 1. So therefore, we have to find out the total, and we have to find out how much each person is going to get in the new case. So if you go up to the fiqh, and this is the point I want to highlight. It says here, multiply the shares, the first case with the multiple that leads to the common denominator. This case is going to be 12. Once you find the common denominator, you're supposed to times it by 2. And this is what happened last time. Last time we got to this case, we had one where there was a 13 and a 12. And we got stuck. So what the ulama say is that once you find out what the common denominator is, times it by 2. Why? Because that's going to be the new base. So in this case, they're both 12. 12 times 2 is 24 is the new base. In the example we studied last time, we had 12 and we had 13. What should we have done? We're supposed to multiply them together. Although we added them, we had 25. And we got a problem because we got either 11 over 25. And some people, they got 10. So in this case, what you'll do, first find the common denominator. In this case, they're both 12. Once you found it, then times 2. This is the difference, but this is why this case is the hardest of all of them, because what we're going to do is we're times it as 2 because we're going to end up by giving them less. Right? Remember, the hermaphrodite gets half. Now someone say, why can't we do another way? Why can't we just divide what they give? Okay, that's another way. But here we're going to follow this method. You have a question?
Would the hermaphrodite be son and daughter?
So first one we pretend it's a male, like a son, and second one is a female.
In the female case, wouldn't the father be 1/6?
Yeah, but there's no residual. Well, you're right, if there is, right? So here, when you find the common denominator, in this case is 12, then times 2. So this is the difference between all other cases. Once you find the common denominator, last one, we found the common denominator and we kept it. This one you find it and you multiply it 2. So this is why this part is more tricky, because if you don't divide it by 2, which was happened last time, you end up with a small common denominator and a bigger share. But last time we did it, what happened was we added the common denominators together, so we got 25, and everyone else's share was bigger than the common denominator. Here you're supposed to divide by times by 2. Some people say, why can't we go the other way around, just divide their share by 2? Like for example, the hermaphrodite, and everybody else gets theirs. That's another way. So this is one way. If you find it easier, great. If you don't, I think this way is gonna be more consistent. It was correct, but it wasn't. It won't be foolproof for all cases. I'll show you an example. Yeah. Yes, you have to learn this one. The thing is, this case is rare, but this method is you just follow the steps first. Once you find the case, so everyone knows the first 2 lines. Everyone's with me, right? What do we do next? You find the common denominator, which is what? 12. Why? Because both are 12. So 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 1 is 12. 12. Now times it by 2. So the real point you have to highlight, multiply the common denominator by 2. This is the point you have to memorize. And the reason why is because if you don't do that, you're going to mess up the whole case. Now what do? Husband gets 3 plus 3 is 6. Now he gets the 6 because 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 3. 3 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 3. Add them together, you get 6. 6 out of 24 is how much? Quarter? It's like it's quarter. Good. And then the father, same thing. He gets 3 out of 24. How much is that? How much is that? 3 out of 24. Yeah, 1? Yeah, good. And then the mother gets, so 4 divided by 24. 6. Yeah, so they make a mistake in the calculation here? Yeah. Yes, in the case that we had, it was, yeah. He's supposed to get, he got 1/6 and there's no residual. So this, what is this? 2. Okay, so maybe it should be 2. Where's the case we did last time? I took it from there. It's the same one? Oh, it's the 13 one? Great, so we'll fix it. Right? I just copied over. I don't know, like, I was more worried with the fiqh. I wasn't looking at the example, so we'll fix it right now, guys. So you're right. So what is it supposed to be? Or let me get it here 1 second. So we're gonna fix this one, inshallah. So let's see. We had 2 cases we did, right? We did okay, this is the one we did. So we did that one and we did this one. This is the one we got stuck on, right? Okay, so let me get the one we did correctly. Where is the one we did correctly first? Because this is the one where the people we got stuck. So okay, this one. The wife, mother, hermaphrodite, and full uncle. How about that one? We did that one last time. The wife, mother, hermaphrodite, and full uncle. Who has their notes from last time? Where is that? We did that one? Yeah, I should have copied this one over. I don't know. I chose this the harder one. So this one, we're just going to change it. But let me just fix this for your benefit and ours. Because the most important thing is the tariqah, not the case. Because the case, I have to fix it. Yeah, this one, slide number 83. This is the one we got correct. The second one we got wrong, right? This is the one where we got stuck. So this one I'm going to fix it. Let me erase this for now. I'm going to copy this one over. On slide 83. Everyone sees that? On the old slide. You see that one? Yeah, so that's the one where we did it correctly. This one works, right? Yeah, so this is the one I should have used. I'll fix it later, inshallah. This is the one where it's supposed to become 13. Exactly. This is what I wanted. Now we're going to fix it. But if you look at slide 83, sorry, for the meantime, everyone sees this? So the same formula. So 12 times 1 is 12. And 12 times 1, because both have the same come down, times 2 is 24. Then you do the same thing, you get the same as slide 83. So let me change these two for our benefit. Are you understanding what I'm doing here, or is that not making sense? It's not clear. Alhamdulillah, we didn't do the exam today. We're gonna be stuck. Well, we're still not done. We have to do the Dawil Arham. We didn't do that either. Although I'm not gonna probably put that in the test. I don't think so, because it's a rare. But that one is more complicated. So maybe we'll just avoid that for now. So let me just fix this case here for you to see what I was doing before. So on slide 83, that's what we're supposed to end up with. So the way we did last time, we just added them together. So we said 12 of 12 is 24, 3 plus 3 is 6, 2 plus 2 is 4, 7 plus 6 is 13, done. So you see my point? So that someone could say that makes sense, but the way we're doing it now also makes sense. But what's going to do is going to prevent us from getting stuck in cases like the one we're looking at right now, and we're not. We have to fix. So, inshallah, I'm going to fix that after, but I'm going to put the case from slide 83 in there for now, inshallah, and then later we're gonna work this one out. But right now, because of time, I'm just gonna put this in there. We didn't do even the calculation. Okay, I'll come back to this one, inshallah. Okay, so there, I'll put that in for now. Inshallah, I'm going to edit it later. But the tariqah I'm mentioning, inshallah ta'ala, if you do it, it gets you the correct answer all the time. Alright, so now, what's remaining? The person inherited those who die by drowning, demolition, and burning. The correct opinion, they don't inherit anything from one another, because we can't confirm if they died at the same time or not. So those who are relatives who died during that same time or in drowning, demolition, so two brothers, one father, one son, they went on a boat, they both died. They will not inherit from another, because we cannot be certain that the one died after another. So therefore, one of the three conditions are not met. So what we'll do, we'll kick them out of their cases. So the father won't inherit from the son, and the son will not from the father. Is that clear? That one's easy. The pregnant woman now, we did this one. I think everyone remembers that the case. So what do we have to do here? The gist of it, there's a baby woman who's pregnant. We don't know if it's a son or daughter. We're supposed to wait. If we can't wait, what do? We're going to assume that the newborn is twins of two males, because that's the maximum they can possibly get, and everyone else will get the minimum, correct? Or they'll get their shares. Okay, so the way we have to understand this, whoever share is not touched or not harmed gets their full share. Whoever share is diminished gets the two of the less. Whoever is cut off, and then the male gets the the newborn gets it too. So the way they say is like the wife, for example, in our scenario here, the wife can will get 1/8. So she gets her share, mother will get her share, and then the paternal uncle will be cut off, and the unborn child will get 17 shares, and we're gonna wait for the child to be born, to which then if the calculation was correct, we keep it, if not, we renew it. So the pregnant unborn baby and the case of missing persons are similar in some ways but different in others. And that's very important. You have to memorize the furuq, the difference between every case. So for example, if you think hermaphrodite, what's special about this case? Like a missing person, what's special about them? What's special? So therefore, when you memorize difference, everything else is the same. So that's not min fiqh. Memorizing furuq saves you time from remembering anything else. Because you already know the asl. Asl is divided. But what's special about here? Two males. This one have to hold some. This one have to. So it's easy in your mind. So when you go home, you write down the special case and you just memorize the difference between them. And then that's it. As long as you know tariqah. If you don't know how to do it, then that's another. We have to learn that first. Then you memorize it. طيب, let's finish with the Gharrawayn and Musharraka. We already explained the difference of opinion on that. What was our khulasa? We said that according to the more correct view, the maternal brothers will not share a full paternal brothers. That's the more correct opinion we're taking. You can take the other view if you see that to be stronger. And the Gharrawayn, or two Umar cases, the mother gets mother, father, and spouse, one of the two spouses. So we give the mother 1/3 of the remaining, not 1/3 of the entire, according to majority of scholars, which is a safer view. So you give the spouse their amount, then what's remaining, 1/3 for the mom, and then the remaining is for the father. That's according to the majority. The last one is a long case now, the inheritance of the Dhiwil Arham, right? And really what I did here, I just put all the rules that we summarized it before. And it doesn't come very often, but just for the faida, I just put all the cases, but I think for most of us, even the test, I don't think I'm going to give that case because it's very rare. So we want to focus on the other ones. But there's 3 scenarios in that situation. If you want more, you can check the notes, where we have 15 total heirs. So the rule was anyone who's not Ahl Fard wa Ta'seeb is considered Ahl Dhiwil Arham, and they come through whoever they're related to. So for example, the daughter's children is considered from Dhiwil Arham. Why? The daughters don't inherit. The daughter of the son inherits. Okay, so that's why they're considered kindred of blood. How do we give them their inheritance? Essentially, they do what's called tanzil. They take the place of the person who they come through. Daughters of children become like daughters because they're the children of the daughter. The sister's children take the place of sister. They keep going. Now, there's some parts where it gets confusing, right? For example, uncles, aunts. So if you look at all the list, you notice there's some of them, they're on the same level. So due to this, there are 3 possible calculations, but we're not going into it because we don't want to add what we're not going to test on. But if you look at it, you have the various scenarios. Scenario where everybody's in the same level and same representation. A level where they have different inheritors they're coming from and the different levels. And a case where they're all representing one heir. They're all replacing one heir, but different ways. So maybe one thing you have to think about, if you ever have a case like this, all you have to do, you have to figure out who's this heir, who are they related to, how do they become an heir, and then what you're going to do is you're going to find out, right, are they at the same level or they're not. And obviously, like I said, it's a rare case, so we don't have to worry about that one. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll end with this much. All right, this is a review. So we'll just fix this last part here I was talking about. Otherwise, I didn't have any questions, or otherwise we can just, amongst ourselves, we can take this. The mother, does she cut off maternal siblings? The answer is no. She's going to share with them because they're all maternal. So because they came from her, they all go together. So mom is always nice, right? So that's how you can remember it, right? So they go together. But she will diminish. That's what's the interesting point. The mom diminishes. Even if they get cut off, the mom still gets less because their presence. It's the only case when the heir cannot get anything, yet the mom will get less. So for example, there's 2 or more maternal siblings, the mom will get 1/6, even though this guy got cut off by his son because of that. So that's important to know. Yes?
I just want to clarify. So a full brother, son, like so forth, is still stronger than
Yes, so because he's coming down from that side. So when we say going down, so you're right, because at the end of the day, It's about saying if you have a son going down, he's coming from the side of furu', and this one is hawashi. Yeah, so he'll replace. So for example, let's say there's no son, there's no grandson, then there's a grandson, right, great grandson. He's stronger than the paternal uncle, or that because he's still son. For babi jiha, he's still stronger. So that's why the classes are important to think about. In the case, let's say there's a fire, father died, son died, grandson survived. Grandson becomes like son, right? So he takes everybody's share, yeah. So because that's what was important to look at, because we go back to hikmah and ta'leel. He's gonna take over the responsibility of the family. For that home, that's why he's given that way, because he's a son or a grandson, where he's act like a son. Where the paternal uncle, right, in terms of his qurba, he could be nearer, but he's not, the jihah is weaker. So it's like he's saying like he could, because he could be someone's uncle, but you're not a son. Right, so that's important to know. So remember the classes, that's why we went this way and we went this way. Any other questions? So inshallah, we'll end this next week, inshallah ta'ala. We'll do the test in order to make sure that this week we can review properly. Inshallah ta'ala, then we'll do it. And also whoever wasn't absent today or missing, inshallah, that gives them a chance to come. Subhanaka bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka.